Hello, everybody who's joining us. This is the Boring AI Show, and we are joined today, Tally and I are joined today by Dr. Mike Grubbs, who's the coordinator for career and technical education at the Baltimore County Public Schools. We've done some really cool stuff with him, and very, very pleased that you're joining us today, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome. All right. Well, just like last time, we're going to jump right into In the News and get started out with what we're seeing, what the news we're watching, and the news we encourage you to watch. So, Tally, you had something special going on this past week, right?
Yeah. So this past week, August 15th to the 17th, was the second Women Who AI Summit, which was amazing. It's put on by Kelly Tenney and the Women Who AI team. Like I said, this was the second summit that I attended, and it's really about female-led AI conversation. Day one focused on content generation with AI. Day two was AI-powered image creation, and day three's theme was using AI for business. So it was really, really interesting content. I highly encourage folks to get in touch with Kelly and team or join the Women Who AI Facebook group. It has all of the recordings from the previous sessions, and there's some really great nuggets of wisdom in there. Some of my personal key takeaways, it was interesting joining the original summit, which took place this spring, April, so only a few months ago, to now. And some of the main shifts I saw were, one, a larger variety in use cases this time. So, for example, with content generation, last time we really touched on the larger umbrella, text generation, image generation, and code generation. And then within that, we talked about, some of the more standard text generation use cases that I think come to mind, like emails or blog posts, content generation. But this time around, we, while that was touched on, we really dove into some more complex examples, which I found really interesting. So, using AI to come up with strategic documents, or to do client research and data analytics, or for lead generation, using AI for web scraping, using AI for automation or as a prediction engine, or summarizing large documents to better get to know your clients. So it was really cool just to see some of these more complex use cases. And like I said, I highly encourage folks to take a look at that site, to delve in there. And then some of the other differences too this time around were, I think last time the main focus was exploring, don't be afraid to try out these new tools. And I think while that's still the case, because AI has advanced just in those few months alone, the use of, the best practices in how to use AI was really tailored to prompt engineering, which I thought was interesting. So, some tips and tricks on giving a bot a point of view or a role, or using a prompt template, or really, leveraging expert advice when it comes to how to best utilize AI tools, rather than just, fingers crossed, hoping for the best through experimentation, understanding that how we use these tools is going to impact the value that we get out of them. So I thought that was just a really interesting focus this time around. So yeah, definitely encourage folks to check it out. Some really cool insights there, and I had a lot to take away. But yeah, some really great minds.
Yeah, very awesome. So, Tally, talking about upskilling and getting started here. Last year at this time, I think it's fair to say you were kind of starting your AI journey. Is that accurate? Or
absolutely, very, very beginning. AI. About all I knew was, it stands for artificial intelligence. That was it. So very basic knowledge. Absolutely. So it's been quite the journey for me.
Yeah. What do you think has been some things that stood out for you? For like the difference between then and now, as you're in the Women in AI Summit, now, and I know you and I talked about, and you're like, yeah, I knew a lot of the stuff they were talking about. Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the practices that you've implemented for yourself since the first AI Summit that made it that you're like, oh no, I know this stuff. I've got this familiarity with this content.
Great question. So I would say for me, I think we touched on this in the previous Boring AI show. It's really understanding what your intention is with using any tool. I think we can have fun and experiment, but if you really want to get the most out of any tool, it's understanding, one, what is your business problem? And two, how does this align with whether it's your personal or your business's mission, to make sure you're really understanding why and how you're using certain AI tools. So, and I think this came up during this summit, but making sure that we're the ones using the tools, we're not really letting the tools use us. I think sometimes the tools can shape our way of thinking, or if we know that a tool does X, Y, Z, we really only think about it in that light, when in actuality, tools can be used in so many different ways. And so really making sure that we're thinking problem first as opposed to technology first, and then seeing how AI might apply to that. Because AI is such a large umbrella. It's not just chatbots. It's not just ChatGPT. There's so many different ways to apply AI to a variety of problem sets. So really understanding what your problem is really the key factor. And I know we touched on that last time, but I think that's been a major shift for me in having greater success with my personal and professional use of AI.
Very awesome. Mike, what kind of questions do you have for Tally on this?
I guess from a school system perspective, and I really loved how you opened with knowing what AI, the acronym stood for. What do you see as opportunities for students in high school to, get a head start on some of this, evolving landscape, as someone has recently gone through learning and upskilling and reskilling themselves to adapt to AI initiatives?
That's a great question. I personally learn by doing, so I love to explore, see what other people are doing. I know Tim and I have used the practice absorb, do, connect model, and that's worked really well for me to better conceptualize how, not only I can use AI, but how AI can be applied to some of our clients in specific projects. So absorb, do, connect. Absorb, part one, is really gathering the information. It's that intake of information, whether it's through a summit like this, whether it's through, online classes or in-person classes, or even just YouTube videos, articles, really absorbing the information. Step two, applying the information. So again, I think most people really learn by not only taking in the information, but then actually applying that and doing what you're learning, so you can see it in real time. And then that last piece is connect. So after you've applied and practiced using AI in different ways, you can actually learn how to connect all the dots to apply AI to whatever your specific use case is. So that's the model we tend to use here at Mind Machines, and it's worked really well for me in terms of absorbing my personal AI knowledge.
Awesome.
I love that. Thinking about students and immersing them in this, I really love those three, and something I want to pass on to our students.
Awesome. Glad to hear it.
Cool. And for those listening, if you guys have questions for Tally about the Women Who AI Summit, just post a comment in the having people come up on stage to talk with us. That might be a little advanced for us in our evolution of the LinkedIn audio event platform. But if you got questions, we'd love to hear from you guys. Post them, and we will chat with you about it. So, anything else, Tally?
Nope, those are my main takeaways. I'll be sure to, link where you can access some of this information following the show in the comments. Awesome. Well, very cool. I will share a piece of news as well here. So from news perspective, any of you who are following me on LinkedIn know I've been talking about a book coming out. My book is coming out actually technically tomorrow, although if you go and look on Amazon right now, you will see that the print paperback editions are available right now. So the book is called This Book Won't Make You Rich, and it is all about artificial intelligence literacy. And so being able to understand what's the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning, knowing what's reinforcement learning, and then a whole plethora of use cases. So when should I think about using regression, having use cases like, I want to predict the likelihood of this outcome.
how would I go about doing that? So it's not a how-to book for use this software or that software, but it is a how to think about artificial intelligence problems and approach them from a business problem and AI solution perspective. So check it out. It's on Amazon.com and available for anybody who wants to take a peek. So that's that. Outside of that, Mike, you were talking about something newsworthy as well today. So before we got started on the call, you want to share?
Yeah. I don't know if it's as exciting as your new book premiere, but I do think it's timely. I've been a long time subscriber of Harvard Business Review, and just last night, coincidentally, in my mailbox was the most recent Harvard Business Review issue, and the cover is reskilling in the age of AI. And I literally just took it out of its packaging a few moments ago, and I look forward to reading it this weekend. But it's really fascinating because the whole issue is around 5 new paradigms for leaders and employees around upskilling, reskilling in response to artificial intelligence. And that's really exciting to me because in working with Tim on adding an AI program to Baltimore County Public Schools, he's reminded us that it's not all about coding. And this issue is all about concepts like we're all programmers now and how anyone can code. There's topics like how AI affects our sense of self. And one of the articles in this issue is that people are interacting with AI, and we need to start shifting our focus from about these technologies to how these technologies make us feel about ourselves. And so it's a really important issue to me because, we want to teach kids in the school system not only how to code and the technical skills of AI, but also how it's affecting society in their day-to-day. So I wish I could have speed read this issue between last night and today, but for anyone that's looking at how AI is affecting businesses and employees and managers, I would really encourage you to check it out and absorb, do, and connect as a result of reading this issue. So thanks, Tim.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's such a very timely article. I can't wait to check it out. I'm guessing it's in my mailbox at home. But one of the things, for us also to recognize is when we're working with AI, like where is AI now? And some of this is through experimentation. Like if you don't experiment with it, you won't know. So like a great example, we can all code, but we all can't code well, And so, as we think about some of the software development that you can do and some of the very neat tricks and capabilities that you can implement with generative AI, we also just need to make sure, we balance ourselves out, right? So it's who is our code reviewer? AI is not there quite yet, my perspective. Other people might disagree, but pretty powerful tools. I mean, what would you say, Tally, as you're hearing this, like what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I think it's the balance between having fun, experimenting, exploring, and also knowing what you don't know. So I think it's constantly learning. I know we've talked about this quite a bit, but it's that continued education piece. So having foundational knowledge in whatever the area is, knowing that you don't have to be an expert to play around and explore and, not be afraid, have that technical confidence to not be afraid to try new things. But also understanding, what are the larger implications of that. So I think in any education around AI, it's making sure we have those two pieces of the technical confidence piece, understanding the technology we're using, how to use it, but then also what are the implications around using it. So that's what comes to mind from my end.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that, Mike. That's awesome. I'm very much looking forward to reading this article.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, let's get into the interview part. So we meet beforehand, like we meet on Tuesdays before the show. Normally the show's on Fridays. So let me know if you guys was Thursday better for you than Friday morning? You can leave a comment, let us know from a timing what works better for you guys. We want to make sure this is good for the audience, on target for what you all need. So communicate, let us know. But one of the things we were talking about was getting started and how all this came to be. And, basically I was connected up with Mike through our friends at, CCBC, Community College, Baltimore County. And, there was hey, Baltimore County Public Schools wants to do an AI program. Can you mind over machines people? Can you chime in and have a discussion with this guy, Mike Grubbs? And I'm like, yeah, sure. We talk to everybody. So Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about, kind of how we got started? Because I really think your trajectory is the standard business trajectory when it comes to AI. So how'd you get started?
Yeah, I've been watching artificial intelligence for the last probably 5 to 10 years. And we have a lot of programs in Baltimore County Public Schools. And we're always looking at programs that are becoming outdated or, are coming down the pipeline. And, an example is we had a drafting program. And drafting is still important for engineers, but we converted that program to more of an architectural design, 3D modeling program a few years ago. So the program that was really next up on my list was artificial intelligence. And I didn't really know where to start. I didn't have the expertise to just jump in and start writing curriculum. And so I started looking at grants. And fortunately, the state around 2018, 2019, opened up a grant called the CTE Innovation Grant from the Maryland State Department of Education. And it was up to $150,000 for school systems to create a new program of study. And a new program of study is a minimum of 3 or 4 courses for high school students to learn about a specific industry, career cluster. And I decided to go for it. And I'll be honest, at the time, I didn't even know where to begin. So what I did was I reached out to our institutional partners, UMBC and CCBC, and I just said, hey, do you know any experts in the field to get us started? And I was immediately directed to Tim Culp and a few other folks, including individuals at Carnegie Mellon University. And we formed an advisory council of about 15 to 20 folks. And applied for the grant concurrently with somewhat of a loose framework of ideas and concepts. And we met once a month for about a year. And I think just genuinely asked for expertise and ideas and kind of went back and forth on different courses and units and ended up with a really awesome framework right in the middle of the pandemic that served as kind of a starting point around creating an artificial intelligence program in Baltimore County Public Schools. And so I might stop there, Tim, and see if you have any questions or follow-up before I talk a little more about the program.
Well, I think it's important to highlight here and directly translate. So the journey you went on is standard. Like, this is the business journey for AI, right? There's an interest, there's a curiosity. You need to set up, the relationships to have discussions with, what's possible? What is this thing? What can we do with it? Have some funding to do some exploration to say, okay, we're going to try to build this thing out and see where we can go with it. One thing that, you had a grant with this funding, from a business perspective, kind of making the business case around exploration. So identifying use cases is one thing that, where, Baltimore County Public Schools didn't have to do that for this curriculum, but, business people out there, you definitely should build out your library of use cases And Tally and I have been building out the library of use cases. So if you're interested, please reach out. We can share some use cases with you guys of AI in business. But I think it's just kind of important to show the parallel. The journey that you were on, Mike, is very similar to a lot of journey that businesses go on. So.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I think I felt kind of like a small startup at the time. I was trying to solicit, almost like investors, right? Hey, are you interested? Is this an area that you want to help us with? I can't pay you much, but I have money to buy things, so I felt like like I said, a small startup, just trying to get as many resources and find people. I liked how you said that were interested and curious to help us move this work forward.
Yeah, and again, translating that, business people, your investors are your executive team. Be able to go to them and say, "Hey, I got this idea. Are you interested? Do you know anybody who would be interested?" And kind of going from there. Tally, this was right. I think this was as you were joining. We were kind of working through this. So, any thoughts or topics here for you?
So I actually have a question, Mike, for you from an audience member. And he works in the higher education world, but he says that he sees a lot of pushback or fear around AI, and how do we get folks to see AI as a tool that students and employees feel encouraged to use rather than sort of a cheat code. And I'm curious, Mike, what's your perception around AI, and how did you get so much buy-in? I guess what was the real value that folks saw out of this AI program?
Well, yeah, great question. I want to answer that from like 7 different angles. So I appreciate that question. And coincidentally, Tim and I had an advisory council meeting on Monday, and that very topic got brought up. I guess in terms of getting the buy-in, one thing that I think made the process unique was 2 things, actually. I think starting with kids. We actually had kids on our advisory council. We had actual students that were in the classroom that were interested. And so when you're talking about starting something new, anything, a business, curriculum, a new university, when you're starting with the customers, you're going to be able to find what makes them tick and really create a product that serves them. And so we had students on the call that would speak up and say, "Hey, I'm not really interested in that," or "I'm really interested in this," or "I saw this news article and can we incorporate that into the curriculum?" And it made that snowball roll down the hill a lot faster when I then went to my superintendent and school system, and I was able to say, "Hey, this is what we want to do." And we already have kids, and teachers that are helping us design this, and they're super excited. They're researching articles and talking about how AI is going to impact them in the future. I think the other thing too and I appreciate Tim as a thought partner for this, is early on, and then even recently, we're reminding folks that this isn't scary stuff. Jobs are not going to get lost. They're going to get upskilled. They're going to be redesigned. They're going to be tools to do things better and more efficient to ultimately, hopefully better society. And I think when we hear about things like ChatGPT in the classroom and those types of things, the more that we can showcase, one, this is a tool for improving our skill sets, the more likely that these initiatives, specifically AI initiatives, are going to be adopted. And just Monday, we talked about ChatGPT, and just yesterday I talked about ChatGPT as a way to teach kids to learn more efficiently, and then teach them how to apply that skill to do new work, to create new knowledge. Mm-hmm. And I think empowering folks is probably the main, the biggest solution to that problem, Tally.
I love that. No, I think that's a great call out. And I know we've touched on this in our conversation Tuesday too about, making sure AI ethics is also, integrated into this program as well. I don't know if you want to touch on how you guys are doing that, but I think obviously focusing on AI ethics and diversifying who has access to AI as well, I think can hopefully be a solution to that problem.
Yeah. So, for me, it was really fascinating even before I thought about the AI program. I used to teach technology and engineering education, and there's this YouTube video about the racist hand dryer. If you haven't seen it, Google it. It's really fascinating to me, although it's not really AI based. Engineers created this hand dryer, and the sensor was designed around a certain pigment of skin, right? Well, and that product went and hit the market, was put into restrooms, and if you were not Caucasian or you didn't have the engineer's pigment, it did not work for you, right? And so in the curriculum, we're using examples like that to teach kids about things like bias in facial recognition, ethics of self-driving cars, putting them in situations to research ethical dilemmas and things like that. We're also incorporating things like, I think it's called the Moral Machine, which is a web-based platform where kids, anybody, are presented with a scenario. A car is out of control, a self-driving car. Do you hit the mom pushing the baby in the stroller, or do you hit the grandma that's 95 years old? And, we're going to have kids reflect. And that's ultimately what this is about. Maybe not even to be better programmers, but to be better thinkers and problem solvers and critical analysts. And then also in the curriculum, we have things like how facial recognition has affected, allowed racial bias in the criminal and legal system. And so at the core of this program of study is not coding. Coding's included. It's an important skill. But this program is all around students understanding the impact that artificial intelligence has on equity and bias, such as race and gender. And we started with that versus starting with coding and then adding that in as an afterthought to the program. So to answer your question in a different way, we began with those things to create the program versus adding them at the end.
Which I think is awesome. I'm so proud of the product that has been built with this in mind. And, again, I will translate again for business. Maybe that'll be the drinking game of this episode. Every time Tim says translate for business, take a shot. But, basically, when we think about a business's perspective, going back to having the students involved in the curriculum and getting that as energy and buy-in, in Mind Over Machines, we've seen that with automation from day one, that if you have the people doing the work, engaged and participating in the work, it goes much smoother and a much higher value and capability in what you build in those automations and those AI algorithms than if you just have a manager saying, well, this is how it is. I know how it works. Let me just tell you. That never gets good buy-in. So making sure you're engaging the people actually doing the work, actually benefiting from the program, make sure that they're engaged. The other aspect is from a business perspective, if you don't have an AI forward team or an AI red team who is setting out the boundaries of like, well, what do we define as our values? What's okay in AI and what's not okay in AI? It doesn't have to be formal. At Mind Over Machines, we don't have I guess you and I are technically the forward team, but we don't have like a official, this is the forward team. But we do very clearly every time we talk about using generative AI, we constantly remind people it's your work. That's our values. Like it's not, you can't just throw something out and say, well, the machine said it's okay, so it's okay. So really emphasizing your values and what's important in prioritization. And I know Mike, we were talking Monday about the diversity of Baltimore County and how that is a significant driver in the capability of the AI program, but all programs.
Yeah, and Baltimore County is so unique. I mean, we look up in the Hereford zone and Lansdowne versus Sparrows Point. We are really a diverse school system, and from a curriculum writing perspective, we're thinking about projects in AI that may need to vary from school to school. Maybe in the Hereford community, we have AI projects that are related to ag and farming and things like the farm bot. And maybe in the west side of the county, we're thinking about how does AI affect transportation and beltway traffic, and not to limit it, but to make sure that we're thinking about students' zip codes and their real life experiences. I think it's really exciting to be in a county like we have, because our kids can really tackle anything that comes at them societally. We have kids all over Baltimore County that are experiencing different challenges on a day-to-day.
So awesome.
Yeah, no, that's really great. And I think, obviously education is the key to making sure, our workforce is prepared for the future. And I think obviously in this case, we're thinking about education, in the high school world, but obviously as we think about upskilling, education can also come in the form of training programs for your employees, of personal education, or, obviously in the higher ed world. Mike, I guess, what are some ways that you get your students and folks excited about and interested in this kind of technology? I know you mentioned something about a robot dog, so I'd love to hear different ways that you kind of engage with your students, and hopefully that can, light some, inspire some folks on the call in terms of how they can maybe engage or inspire their employees.
Yeah, I think one of the most challenging things for us has been when you're at an event or something like that, like a community event, how do you reel in the parents and the kids about AI? When I do an event to talk about our programs, it's easy for me to show a bridge that a kid designed in engineering, right? It's easy for me to showcase our cosmetology students making hair or doing hair, right? So for AI, we've been looking at we've been using our robot dog that students wind up programming and leveraging facial recognition and AI technology. And we've been taking it to community events, just like this last Saturday at our back to school event. And had I just had a flyer about artificial intelligence, I don't think that we would have gotten literally hundreds of people walking up to our booth to say, OMG, what business are you with? And I say, I'm actually with the school system, and this is what your child could be doing. I think working with employers and businesses to showcase more of things that people can touch and put their hands on around AI is really important. And I think that does translate to business in terms of showing your employees capabilities and recruiting them in and things like that. What is actually created as a result of your business. I had another example that I think is so important for recruiting folks in this type of work is getting them out of the building. We're always looking to partner with businesses and employers, and I can't rely on a textbook that was written 3 years ago. So getting kids out onto the job site, into businesses, on webinars, connected with guest speakers to hear about all the cool stuff that's happening with AI is really important. And I think that's transferable to folks on this call that are in business to do the same with their own employees and their own workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this is a good transition also into, we talk about upskilling. There is an element of go and see, and the excitement around the robot dog. It is awesome. Everybody, I have seen the robot dog. I've gotten to play with the robot dog. Super, super cool stuff. But your teachers, we talk about upskilling. They had to learn the curriculum, right? And so, one of the what are some of the challenges that, as the teachers were kind of upskilling into this curriculum, that they faced, and how did you guys navigate that?
Yeah, great question. What's really unique about us is we have computer science in actually every single high school. And so artificial intelligence is going into our magnet programs. And so computer science was there, but to your point, Tim, we had to upskill our teachers' capabilities. And so, we've looked at different software that we do not include in our computer science program. And we had to partner with like CCBC and other institutions to train our teachers in those new coding platforms. I don't want anyone to cringe on the call, but one of them was Java that we don't normally teach to our computer science students, but we're teaching to our AI students as an additional skill set. But our teachers didn't know it, and so we had to partner with CCBC and some other institutions to upskill our teachers. I think the other thing too is we're getting our teachers more into professional events, webinars like this. We went down to DC for an AI and education event to learn about resources on teaching ethics and bias and things like that, and learning about ChatGPT live from experts that are using it in industry. And I think that's really important, is just to fast track that learning as quickly as possible through firsthand resources, right to the experts as soon as possible. And that's been a lot of the work that I'm doing, is making the connections to those experts for our teachers to get more up to speed.
Do you have a concern of your teachers learning this skill? Because I have heard this from business executives I talk to, of like, well, now I have this AI enabled team member, and are they just going to bounce? Like, are they just going to go do something else? Like, is that a concern for you guys, or how have you kind of processed that, navigated that, or is it just I'm bringing this up now and sending you into a panic attack?
Yeah, my heart's racing a little bit. I try not to. I do think about that daily. It's teaching. We're in a teacher shortage across the country, and so at this time where we're trying to get kids these technical skills, it is very difficult to recruit programmers that could be making $100, $150, $175,000 to do this, and say, hey, would you like to teach this to high school kids for $65,000 to $110,000? What I have found is the recruitment sometimes may be a challenge for us to get these teachers in. But even when we upskill them, these are folks that are genuine lifelong learners that want to help kids and want to improve the industry. And we tend to see that actually, despite the pay, they actually stick around. And I've always shared that extrinsic motivators always give way to intrinsic ones. Mm-hmm. And we're seeing that in the classroom with our attrition rate. We don't see a lot of folks leave once they're in. Now, to your point, it is a little bit hard when we expand programs, which is why we're only doing 3 AI per schools this year, because it's hard to recruit them in and sell them on that idea from the get-go. That's losing pay cuts, those types of things are a tough thing to circumvent out of the gate. But once they're here, I find that they like to stick around.
So really tapping into why you're here in the first place, mission alignment. So good for business. Tally?
Interesting. Yeah, what came to my mind there too is, if you educate these teachers to, learn how to leverage AI, hopefully they can also learn how AI can make their job easier. So, using AI to help them write curriculums or grade papers or things like that. I think we forget that there's kind of that double-edged sword to the knowledge of AI that hopefully can benefit the teacher personally as well. So kind of, be interested to see how those teachers end up using AI personally.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Tally, what other kind of questions do we have for today?
Yeah, I think the other question that I have for you, Mike. I know, you said from the beginning that you're not an AI expert. So I guess, how did you get into this? And for the folks that are out there that maybe they have employees or themselves, they're not experts, how do you advise kind of getting started? Where did you start?
Yeah, for me, I taught middle school tech ed, and I would teach some basic coding to teach kids how to do basic robots. For me, what really pushed me into this space more and more was COVID-19. Moving into the more of a digital remote workplace, I started just tinkering. I noticed this extra app on my device called Power Automate, and I saw that I could streamline some tasks, and I could, make my work and things more efficient. And what really got me started was just a genuine interest, like curiosity. I mean, that's another beer drinking word that I think we could throw out there. I think that's a really important one around AI, is just be curious, just explore and search and ask good questions, connect with folks. That's what really got me rolling in this direction, seeing, how important this is and how much of a disruptor it's going to be with every industry that we interact with. I think a lot of folks think it's just computer science and computers, and we're seeing AI affect all these different industries. And I find that very interesting, and, I'm very curious about it. So, I think just finding that curiosity and following up with folks that share that with you and just exploring, I think it's a really fun process to just go search out new tools and resources and things like that.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Mike, if people want to learn more about the AI program and kind of your journey with AI and upskilling in general, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, if you Google search Baltimore County Public Schools Career and Technical Education, you can see all of our programs and our contact information. My email's mgrubbs@bcps.org. I love connecting and learning from folks that are doing this. I kind of enjoy not knowing and just walking into really cool, fun, interesting conversations that I can pass on to my teachers and students. So I'm happy if you reach out. I'd love to share more about our programs and hear about all the great stuff you're doing.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go around the call here and talk about wins. And so, Tally, this is the last part of our show. What's your win this week?
Absolutely. So again, I think it's so important that folks aren't afraid of integrating AI and realizing how AI can be just extremely beneficial. This article kind of tugged at my heartstrings a little bit. So New York Times article that came out Wednesday showed that a stroke stole her ability to speak at age 30. AI is helping to restore it years later. So essentially this mother, and ironically also a teacher, had a stroke in 2005 that took away her ability to speak. She hasn't been able to speak since. But this Wednesday, scientists reported a really remarkable advancement, helping her and others in similar positions speak again, which is really, really incredible. So essentially implanted electrodes decoded her brain signals as she tried to speak in silence. And AI technology was able to convert her brain signals into written and vocalized language. And then it also enabled an avatar displayed on a computer screen to speak these words and display facial expressions on her behalf, which is just really, really incredible. So I thought that was a really cool win.
That is so awesome. You're going to share that link in the show notes coming up, right?
Absolutely.
So cool. Awesome. That I love stories like that because it's, really seeing, these advances. We talked about earlier, the reskilling, the scariness. And so this is transformative to how we live and, how we think about the human experience. So such a fascinating story. So awesome. Mike, you got a win?
Yeah, I had to whittle this down a bit. One win is just being here. But for me, the big win in the past few days has been we took a few students to the White House actually last year to talk about cybersecurity and AI and computer science. And one of those students was a sophomore. And he just emailed me a few days ago saying, hey, you talked to me about a new AI program in computer science. And, I would really like to do an internship or an apprenticeship with you, to get this program up off the ground and to help the school system. And so we'll be working with this student at one of our high schools to do some work in my office around like a help desk model, to work virtually or to work in my office and to do some Power Automate type programming and systems to make our processes a little bit smoother, and to provide tech support and coding and computer science support throughout our school system. And so we're really looking forward to the next few months to onboard him and to upskill him and have him solving problems we didn't even realize were problems to begin with.
That's awesome.
Right? Yeah. Yep.
Very awesome. Well, if he runs into any challenges or needs help, I know a company that is an expert in Power Automate and automation in general. So we'll be more than happy to help him out if he needs any help.
That's awesome. We look forward to partnering. Thanks, Tim.
Cool. And then for my win, on my LinkedIn profile, I just shared a video earlier today. DeepMind, which is a division with Google Alphabet that focuses on AI, commissioned a bunch of artists to reimagine the visualization of artificial intelligence, because often it is like, an electric blue brain, or it's a robot and a guy shaking hands, and they really wanted to focus on diversity and reimagining of how we think about, how we visualize and describe artificial intelligence. And these videos and images that were created are stunning. So I encourage everybody, we'll share the link in the show notes here, but very, very cool stuff. Just keep an eye on my LinkedIn. You'll be seeing a whole bunch of them for quite a while now. So
very cool. Is there one you can describe, Tim? I'm curious now, because I do have these pictures of like the white robot, the robot shaking hands. I'm curious what they came up with.
Yeah, me too.
It's very abstract, unless you know how like neural networks work and how some of these like reinforcement systems, how they work. These are excellent visualizations of that. So one is you have a bunch of these like pill-shaped electric blue and electric green pill-shaped objects bouncing around on the screen, and they're pushing buttons. And the button is reconfiguring this sculpture as they're pushing the button. And then, as the sculpture there's a big button that's approved button. And then all the buttons disappear and the little, pill shapes celebrate to represent that, the outcome has been achieved and the reinforcement learning is complete. So very they are gorgeous to look at, but also if you understand how the technologies that they're describing work, it's pretty accurate. It's kind of neat to see this and be like, oh yeah, that is how, like in a large language model is one I just posted on LinkedIn earlier, where it shows, typing out the content and then processing through. So pretty neat stuff. I'll be sharing more. All right. Okay, well, I think that's it for this episode of the Boring AI Show. So I hope everybody got some value out of this. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Keep an eye out. The next Boring AI Show will be coming in 2 weeks is the plan. Share with a friend if you like what you're hearing, and tell us. We want to hear from you guys. All right, Tally, anything to close us out?
No, that's about it. Thanks for joining, Mike. This was great. I feel like I learned a lot, and I'm excited to hear and see what some of the comments are following the show.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm going to be subscribing to all the future ones. This was, I really enjoyed the topics and the opportunity. Thanks again, Tim and Tally.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Baltimore County Public Schools, for letting us steal Mike. And thank you, Mind Over Machines, for letting Tally and I steal our time away. So wonderful. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you later.
See you guys.
See y'all. Thanks again.
Bye.